Hello, baseball fans, stadium rants, baseball enthusiasts. We are back with Dirty Leather after a small hiatus. This is Doug, your host for this week, and I'm joined, as always, by Jesse. Welcome, Jesse. Good to see you.
It's you too.
And we're talking about magic numbers, which are beginning to be established in the pennant races. We've got about 14 games left in the schedule, which could make or break some teams. Some divisional races are tighter, while others are really slipping away from teams' chances in terms of getting into the playoffs. I think we had our first team today that was officially in, and that is Pat Murphy's Milwaukee Brewers. So no real surprise there. Congratulations to the Milwaukee Brewers for getting in. And they are officially the first team to get into the dance. It's fair to say probably that they are going to be the divisional winners too. They haven't clinched the division yet, but they have officially clinched that playoff berth. So other divisions where things are sort of running away in terms of the race, the National League East, we've got the Philadelphia Phillies with a huge gap over the contenders. The New York Mets can't seem to get it together. They're slipping ever so far away from that playoff berth, slipping slowly, gradually out of the wild card berth as well. So lots happening. But as always, here at Stadium Rant and at Dirty Leather, we get started with our weekly rants. And there's got to be something on your mind, Jesse, because it's been a couple of weeks. I know I've got one thing that's kind of irking me. What's the hot topic that you're thinking of in terms of your rant?
Well, this week I decided to go a little further and look at the offseason plans for the New York Yankees after this season. I know the Yankees are probably going to get into the playoffs. It seems relatively likely. It would be a shock if they didn't. It has to be a major collapse. But I always like to look at the offseason, what they could do. So I took a look at some of their team. I took a look at everything that they need, that they've been doing good, so on and so forth. And one of the things that the Yankees need is pitching, especially starting pitching. Now, you have Max Fried and you have Carlos Rodon. And if one thing is ever so persistent in Yankee lore, is that the best Yankee teams usually have two dominant lefty pitchers. Max Fried is certainly very dominant. He's been very dominant the entire season. It's maybe a very, very dark horse candidate for Cy Young, but it's a very uphill battle. But we're not even going to discuss that. And Carlos Rodon, who is your second lefty, has performed exceptionally well. His best season as a Yankee so far, both in their primes of their careers. Fried is 31, Rodon is 32. However, the Yankees do seem to lack some right-handed pitching. Now, they do have Luis Gil, and we'll talk about Luis Gil later in the broadcast, but Luis Gil is still a fantastic pitcher. In the 8 games that he started since coming back from injury, he has a 2.83 ERA, over 41 innings pitched with 34 strikeouts. So he does lack that strikeout ability that he had from last year when he was a rookie, and he was a big Rookie of the Year candidate. Still a very good pitcher, still very effective. You do have Cam Schlittler, who has been very impressive from my book. Statistics-wise, he has started 11 games this year, 56 innings pitched, so he's not going to eat up a lot of innings, but he does give you some effective outings. 63 strikeouts, again, a 3.05 ERA, and a 1.32 whip. That's mainly due to a slightly inflated walk rate and slightly inflated hits per 9 rate. So if he works on that, he'll definitely get down. But I have been looking through that team, and that's one of the big question marks. Are they going to go and make a splash at during the offseason? So I've been looking at some of the players that they could get, because Will Warren is still kind of a question mark. He has been a relatively good starter, but he has given you some very troubling starts, unfortunately. And it does seem like that the Yankees might need to make a splash during the offseason. So I have been looking at some of the field. Ranger Suarez might walk. Dylan Cease might walk. If they do walk, which not really likely, but they do have options this year. They do have some opt-outs.
You're going to have a lot of teams going after those guys, especially Cease. I
Yep.
think he'll be kind of the front runner in terms of starting pitching, and a lot of people will have Cease on their wish list, including the Blue Jays, who really don't have starting pitching as their area of need, but it's so attractive, the idea of adding Cease to the front end of the rotation, or in your case, probably the middle of the rotation. But I could see him going to New York. I think they'll definitely be putting a bid in on Cease. That'll be fun to watch.
Absolutely. And another name that I have thought about, which I thought the Yankees were going to try to make an effort for at the deadline this year, Zach Gallen could be on the move if he does not stick with his team. That might be a name to watch. There also is a potential that they go international. There have been a few names that have been floated around in terms of foreign pitching. One name that in particular that has been floated around recently that might be posted this year is a gentleman by the name of Tatsuya Imai. He is from Japan. He's 27 years old. And I did look at his stats. He is phenomenal. He is a very, very good pitcher. I haven't gotten to his arsenal yet, but just looking at the surface level numbers from the Japanese league, this year he has pitched stunningly. A 1.67 ERA, a 9-5 record, over 21 starts, 145 innings pitched, 91 hits only. He's only surrendered 39 walks and only 4 home runs. Really good stuff. And 162 strikeouts. So he has the makings of a really good pitcher if the Yankees do want to go get him. And a .892 whip, which is a fantastic number. I think any team that can afford to go international can absolutely do that. Now, there are also some other holes in terms of hitting as well. There are some holes at catcher. Austin Wells has played relatively well defensively. Offensive-wise, he does give you a couple of good games, but there have been a little issues with regards to getting on base, hitting in clutch situations, so on and so forth. And unfortunately, Volpe doesn't look like he has much longer left. So that might be something to address. And
yeah, Volpe can't seem to escape the social media gossip columns. Every day
exactly.
It seems there's a new post about him. And, the latest one I saw was he was with some supermodel, and people are starting to make some Roy Hobbs connection, to the natural. Like that's why he's slipping. That's why his game's falling apart, because of his private life, because of his love life, and she's the culprit. And this woman is now public enemy number one. Who knows if she even exists? But so many rumors circulating about Anthony Volpe and why he's taken such a tailspin this year, offensively and defensively. But it's drama, right? And everybody's soaking it up right now. Yeah,
absolutely. So the question for the Yankees is, what do you do about that right side of the infield? Ryan McMahon could possibly, stay at third base. I do believe he might have played maybe a few games at shortstop when he was younger. Yeah, he did play a couple of games at shortstop in 2020, but that's about it. So I think he's going to stay at third base. However, they could also possibly go and get a player by the name of Munetaka Murakami, and he is also a third baseman. So maybe you try to play a little bit with some of the analytics, maybe try to stretch a couple of things. We'll see what happens. But that right side of the infield definitely needs some improvements for 2025. Otherwise than that, I think the team is in relatively good standing for 2026, and they could be in much better standing if they do make some moves during the 2025 offseason. So that's my rant. What do you say, Doug?
Well, even with your team intact right now, if you got a pitching rotation that has Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Garrett Cole, Clark Schmidt, and then Schlittler or Warren in the number 5 or number 6, that's going to be very difficult to beat, especially if Garrett Cole comes back in full force, which I got to think he will. I have to think that he's going to return similar to what Jacob deGrom has done in terms of his rehab and development. I think Garrett Cole is going to come back in full force and be the Garrett Cole that we've always known and, watched the development of his career over the past 10 years, his Hall of Fame trajectory. I think he's going to hop back on right where he was. I hope so. I'm a Garrett Cole fan. What I'd like to see, I know it's not going to happen. I know it's definitely not going to happen. And maybe you want to chime in with your thoughts. Is maybe a Trevor Bauer experimentation just for spring training? Could he get a spring training invite?
Possibly.
Is it going to happen? No, probably not. But I would love to see the Yankees, just be open to that possibility. Just the Yankees. I'd love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be a very interesting experiment. 2 UCLA teammates. Apparently, they really butted heads in college. Who knows how much truth there actually is to that? But that would be fun to watch. That would be front page news across every baseball publication if they were to do that, but it doesn't seem like anybody wants to give Bauer a chance. I don't know if I want to voice my opinion completely about the fine details of that case, even though I have some opinions. I do think Bauer has done his time, and his stuff seems to be there still. Perhaps an invite to spring training, take it from there, see if he behaves himself. But those are just my thoughts and 2 cents on the matter. Anyway, do you have anything to chime in about with regards to Bauer?
Well, if the Yankees do need bullpen help, possibly. Now, with regards to Garrett Cole, I completely forgot about him, unfortunately, because he's been down the entire year with recovering from Tommy John.
Right.
He could definitely come back and slide back right into the rotation, be the ace again. But again, it's that back of the rotation that I'm a little worried about. Can Cam Schlittler build on his 2025 season? Can Will Warren continue to try and improve? How long until we see Clark Schmidt again? So there's a lot of question marks in terms of what you want to do. And again, we also have to address the bullpen. What do you do with this bullpen that has not been very good?
Well, I would say, if you've got a full rotation, you could put Schlittler in the bullpen. He has elite stuff.
Yes.
He could potentially be. He's starter material. You don't really want to groom him as a closer, I don't think. But if you got to put him in the bullpen, he would be an excellent long man to have, I think. If you got enough, if you're well stocked in 1 through 5 in the starting rotation, then Schlittler could potentially be your long man. But from what I saw when Schlittler was pitching against the Jays, he has elite stuff. He can hit like triple digits with his fastball. Big, lean pitcher's body, fluid delivery. It's impressive. He's young, extremely talented starting pitcher that could definitely be in the back end starting next year, moving forward, could move his way up to the middle of the rotation from what I saw in terms of his stuff.
That could happen. That could absolutely happen.
Yeah. So in terms of my rants, my rant is that playoff teams or teams who perceive themselves as being playoff teams are not placing a premium on defense. Okay. You have to solidify your defensive presence moving into the playoffs. And I really believe that's why the Blue Jays are among the strongest team. If I had the power rankings in front of me right now, I think they're placed in number 5 in the latest poll in ESPN. But personally, I would rank them number two. And the reason for that is the defensive presence that they currently have to this day. Bo Bichette got hurt in that Yankees series. You probably saw the play where he collided with Wells in home plate. Excellent block, by the way, at home. It was a perfectly fundamental block by Wells. But Bichette hurt his knee on that play. He might be done for the rest of the year. Who knows? There's no timeline on his return. But guess what? The Blue Jays have so much depth that his loss isn't really felt. And in fact, on the defensive side of the ball, the Blue Jays are better without Bo Bichette. He was their only defensive liability. Everywhere else, we had gold glovers, platinum glovers. And now we've got Andres Jimenez moving from second base to short. So you've got a platinum glover at short, and you've got Clement, who's going to be a utility man gold glover this year, moving to second. And we've got IKF at third. So gold glove presence, and Vladdy at first. And Ty France at first, who's also won a gold glove. So everybody in the infield has won a gold glove. And then you've got a platinum glover in center field with Dalton Varsho, and a gold glover in George Springer. He hasn't won a gold glove in a few years, but he's still an excellent defensive player. And then you've got Addison Barger in the outfield as well, who has an absolute cannon and is among the league leaders in outfield assists. There are no holes defensively with the Toronto Blue Jays, and that's why they're number 1 by a long shot on the defensive side of the ball. If you look at the leaders' defensive metrics, even with Bichette, who, like I said, was their lone defensive liability at shortstop, they're still number 1 in MLB defensively. Now, without him playing defense, they've just gotten stronger. So what I'm saying is, in order for teams to really make a playoff push and go deep into October, defense has to be rock solid. Now, the Yankees showed that last year. I mean, great team, that Yankees team last year, offensively especially. as is your team this year, Jesse. Extremely powerful offensively, even though you got that
Yes.
short porch in right field. But you've got your defensive studs. I mean, McMahon was definitely an upgrade at third. Wells is excellent defensively, but your middle infield, man. I love Jazz Chisholm as a player. I think he's an extremely talented player. But defensively, it's like sometimes he's just forgotten his fundamentals.
Yes.
You know, the talent is there. There's no question. But I got to think he's very much interested and very much focused on his stat line from day to day. He knows about his stats. He knows he's approaching 30-30. And I wonder, as a player, if he's just placing too much emphasis on that rather than, what can I do on this play to really help the team? I don't know. From my vantage point, that's how I sort of describe the defensive presence of the Yankees when I see them play. Just a breakdown to fundamentals, which is kind of sad because when Aaron Boone played, when he played third base for the Reds before he had his tenure with the Yankees, he was one of my favorite players. He was a defensive force, just an absolute awesome player at the hot corner. So I know that Boone knows defense. He knows the fundamentals. I would think that he's teaching them, but it just isn't translating to their play, the Yankees play from day to day. So, I'm just wondering why, the Jays don't have more respect in the power rankings, considering they're way out in front in all defensive metrics, and B, why defense isn't placed at a premium when you're trying to build a championship team. Even the Dodgers with all their star power, they've got holes defensively.
Yes.
Andy Pages is not an excellent center fielder. Mookie Betts, love him. He is not an excellent shortstop. And really, to go deep, maybe they have the depth the Dodgers do in terms of starting pitching. And of course, they've got Ohtani, they've got Freeman, they've got all this star power. But there are holes defensively on that team. And if you know where those holes are, it's the old expression, right? Hit them where they ain't. And good, smart, fundamental teams can take advantage of those defensive holes.
Yep. Definitely, I agree with you. And I absolutely agree that Toronto Blue Jays are a really, really good team. They could easily be the kings of the AL East for a while. I think one of the things that a lot of the rankers, for lack of a better term, don't really take into account is just how stable their pitching has been. You do have Kevin Gausman, you have Chris Bassett, and you have Max Scherzer, who, yes, they are definitely reaching the end of their careers, unfortunately, but they've been really good in the pitching department.
Gausman, over the last 7 games, Gausman will be the American League Pitcher of the Month for September. So he is getting hot at the right time. Right now, he's the best pitcher in the American League. Now, you saw last week what he did against the Yankees. It was an absolute gem. And then he threw a complete game shutout on, I think it was Wednesday afternoon against the Astros.
Yes.
So a complete game shutout against Houston is no joke, right? So as it stands right now, yes, we've got Bieber. Yes, we've got Scherzer. But Gausman is our number one guy. And if the playoffs were to start today, he'd be taking the ball. So
absolutely.
It's looking as though most teams in a short series, not the 2 out of 3, because I'm hoping the Blue Jays get the bye. And again, if the playoffs were to start today, they get a first round bye. But in a 3 out of 5 series, most teams would be going with a 3-man starting rotation. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would absolutely agree. You would have to do a 3-man rotation, 100%.
Yeah, so in the case of the Blue Jays, we're looking at Gausman, Bieber, and Scherzer. Now, that's pretty strong, right? It's hard to top that one. However, I also like what the Yankees have in that regard, too, and what the Red Sox have. If you have a 3-man rotation, most teams, playoff teams, will be going with some really strong arms in the front end. I really like what the Jays have, but the Yankees are no joke either in that department. Same with the Red Sox, right? They've got Crochet and probably Giolito and then Brian Bale, right? As the third?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if we want to get into the Yankees, obviously Fried is one of your pitchers. Obviously Rodon is your next pitcher. Then the question becomes, who's your third pitcher? Do you give Cam Schlittler, the rookie, a big spot or a start in a big game? Do you go with the gutsy call? Do you go with Will Warren, who has been one of your more stable pitchers? Do you go with Luis Heel as somebody who is coming off of injury, but has also pitched relatively well, but does have a lack of strikeouts? That's one thing you really have to consider. I would personally put Heel as your third starter in a game three situation in a wild card, and probably move Schlittler to the bullpen like you suggested. I think Schlittler is fantastic as a bullpen asset. I think he's a very good starter, but I think he could do wonders in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, what about the closer situation? Is it fairly secure with Bednar at the back end?
I would suggest that's one of the big things that the Yankees have had major issues with. Is this bullpen has not been very good. They spent a lot on the bullpen. They traded to get Devin Williams earlier this season. They ended up getting David Bednar at the trade deadline. They ended up getting Camilo Doval at the deadline, and then they ended up getting Jake Bird at the deadline, who is now in AAA and has stayed there and has also struggled. But aside from him, I would definitely consider David Bednar to be the strongest of those big three and
I would
the most
agree.
consistent of those big three. So if we were in a big game, a big safe situation, your best bet is to turn the ball over to Bednar. I would definitely suggest possibly having Devin Williams as maybe a closer, or not as a closer, a setup man for maybe the seventh or the eighth inning, and maybe having Camilo Doval for the seventh inning, or switching him out with Luke Weaver, who has still been a really good pitcher. He has had some issues this year with some consistency, excuse me, but definitely, I think if you mix and match this bullpen a little bit and play a little bit of some doctor with the bullpen, you can definitely construct something really good. And if Cam Schlittler is in that bullpen with the arsenal that he has, and if he continues his development, you might have a really good bullpen in your hands.
Yeah, yeah. We really need that Aroldis Chapman presence at the back end. Chris, we're missing Chris tonight, but yeah, what a season he has had. He's kind of put himself into the Cy Young conversation, which is very rare for a relief pitcher, but he's going to get some votes. Chapman is. The Cuban Missile is having his very best season as a professional, as an MLB pitcher, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. He's having a wonderful season. He has had a wonderful closer role with the Boston Red Sox at the age of 37. So he has not lost any pep in
No,
his play.
well, he really started to show signs of kicking it into overdrive with the Pirates last year. He showed he had
Yes.
plenty in the tank, and then he made himself attractive in the free agent market, and he had a few teams that were after him and were definitely interested. He had his tenure with the Yankees, but do you
Yes.
know whether or not the Yankees even made a bid for him in the
I
offseason, or were they kind of
I
done?
I believe in 2022 they were done because they did not put him on that American League division or championship roster
Roster? He
at
wasn't on
that
the
time.
roster.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, they had left him off because I guess there were some issues with regards to his health and regards to his work ethic. So they left him off the roster. And I don't believe they made any offer to him in the offseason. And he ended up going to Kansas City and then to Texas, which he won a ring with, of course, and
Yeah.
then went to Pittsburgh and is now with Boston. So he has bounced around a couple of teams. So now with Boston, which is a well-known rival and the best rival in baseball to the Yankees, he has found his step. He has turned it on, and he is easily in conversation for reliever of the year. I think he's even the
Well,
reliever of the year.
definitely, yeah, absolutely reliever of the year. There's Munoz, there's Suarez, who are the only two others who could, even come close to the numbers that Chapman has put up, especially the ERA and the strikeouts and the opponent's batting average. Like the opponent's batting
Yes.
average is like in the minimal low 100s. So he's almost untouchable, especially over the second half when Boston has really made a charge and put themselves back into contention after, kind of a terrible, disappointing first half of the season, right? So he's been
Yes.
one of the catalysts in terms of bringing them back into contention this year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting, the bullpen. I think closer by committee might be what the Blue Jays would have to do as well, because uh, Jeff Hoffman has had so many bad outings in the second half of the season. He's blown too many saves. They're going to give him the ball in these high leverage situations, especially in the last 14 days of the season. But the bullpen is going to be beefed up, given that they're going to have those three starters that I mentioned, Bieber, Scherzer, and Gosman. So Barrios and Bassett will be moving to the bullpen potentially.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a closer by committee situation. And the Dodgers showed last year, and even the Yankees showed a little bit throughout the playoffs last year, that that's not such a bad thing, right? If you've got an abundance of riches and you've got those arms to use in the bullpen, if you need to use Jose Barrios, or like the Dodgers did last year, Walker Buehler as your closer, if that's what you got to do, then that's what you got to do, right? I mean, by committee, you just go with the hottest hand and the person who will do the job. The closer's role is not set in stone, right? Especially in the playoffs. And, you know, your guy is only going to get maybe one chance, two chances. And if they're not putting it together and they just can't perform, then, you know, you might have a starting pitcher who they'll put into that role. That could happen with the Yankees. It could definitely happen with the Blue Jays. It's not going to happen with the Red Sox, of course, which we just discussed. But there's only like maybe 3 teams where that closer role, playoff teams, is set in stone. And those are the teams that we already mentioned, right? And that actually is a pretty good segue into our next item, which are your top 5 in terms of the power rankings. Now, the power rankings that I saw on ESPN, they don't really match with the power rankings that I'm thinking of. Jesse, you want to mention your top 5? Who's in your top 5 currently?
Well, I'm going to start off with probably the most obvious of them all, and that's the Milwaukee Brewers. I think they're the most well-rounded team in the entirety of Major League Baseball. I mean, there's no question about it. I think they have one of the most well-rounded lineups, and I think their pitching staff is phenomenal. You have Freddie Peralta leading that team, leading the entire NL East in terms of wins. 185 strikeouts over 163 and 2/3 of innings pitched. Fantastic pitcher. You have Quinn Priester, who has really come out of nowhere, essentially, to become the second behind Freddie Peralta and really create a nice 1-2 punch for that team. They have the 3rd best batting average, the 2nd best on-base percentage, and the 5th most walks in general for their offense. So their offense is just as good as their pitching. And you also have Mizorowski, who has really emerged as a decent pitcher, at least a decent mid-range, it's number 3 pitcher. But the return of Brandon Woodruff is really helping this team. Brandon Woodruff was dearly missed for the last year or two, and he has pitched well this year, and which is what the Brewers absolutely needed. 3.32 ERA over 59 and 2/3 innings pitched, 43 hits and 74 strikeouts, which is excellent. And that's exactly what they wanted. And that's exactly what they needed. They have a functioning rotation. They also do have at least some success in the bullpen. Abner Uribe has been fantastic this year. The 25-year-old has been phenomenal. Trevor Megill in the closer spot has been good as well. Grant Anderson, he's pitched relatively good as well. So you do have a lot of options in that bullpen that you can work with. And for my next one, which is number 2, the Phillies. This was a little more challenging, but I think the Phillies fit in that number 2 spot relatively well. We're going back-to-back National League. And the reason why they're not number 1 is because the loss of Zach Wheeler is tremendous for this team. That's not even a question. Zach Wheeler was in contention for Cy Young. If not for the top spot, definitely for runner-up. The loss of Zach Wheeler is as big of a tragedy to this rotation as you could ever think. You do have Christopher Sanchez.
He's a proven playoff performer, right?
Yes, he is.
Outstanding starts in the playoffs.
He's made some very good starts in the playoffs when he was younger and when he was with the Mets as well, and with Philadelphia as well during his tenure. But you do have Christopher Sanchez. You do have Ranger Suarez, who's been relatively well. You do have a rejuvenated Taijuan Walker, who has pitched good this year. He hasn't pitched great, but He can give you a good start or two. You do have Aaron Nola, who isn't pitching relatively well. You might have to move him to the bullpen, but you do have Walker Bueller if you want to tag him as a starter for maybe a game or two. You do have options. You absolutely have options. Johan Duran was a great pickup for this team. 1.15 ERA over 18 games, 14 saves. He was great this year. He was a that was
Oh,
big of
he's
a
always
pickup
been
for this
great.
team.
He's always been great.
Yes,
Johan Duran's got
yes,
elite
but
stuff. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, he's turning on to a another level with this team. 21 strikeouts and 15 and two-thirds innings pitched. Only two earned runs given up during that time frame, which is just as good as what you've ever wanted from your closer. You want a
Mhm.
closer that's lights out. You've got a closer that's lights out now. And otherwise, that Tanner Banks has been really good. Matt Strom has been fantastic. Jordan Romano, bumped to the back of the bullpen, has not had a good season. But otherwise than that, that's really your only real weak point. Now, for the American League, which was the number 3 spot for me, this was a little challenging. I initially had the Tigers up there, but I'm going to switch them around with the Blue Jays, to be honest with you. And there's a reason why for that. I think they are the more well-rounded, or probably the most well-rounded lineup in the American League. Guerrero Jr. has had a fantastic season again. George Springer continues to mash at the age of 35. You did lose Bo Bichette, who leads the entire league in hits. So that's going to be unfortunate. If he's out for the rest of the year, that's a big loss. But you have Addison Barger, who's played relatively well, Davis Schneider, who had a really bad start to this year, but he did pick it up, and he has played relatively well in the after his poor performance, which ended up getting him sent back down to AAA. Jimenez, he hasn't had a really good year offensive wise, but he's a good defensive player. And otherwise than that, that lineup has been fantastic. Again, we talked about the pitching earlier. Gosman has pitched well. Bassett's pitched well. Scherzer's pitched well. Lauer has pitched really well, and Barrios, excuse me, has pitched well as well. So you have that veteran experiment for that rotation worked. The question is, can the bullpen hold up? You have Jeff Hoffman that has been a little spotty, but you did mention yourself there can be a closer by committee, and I think it could work. And behind them, I have the Tigers. Now, the reason I put the Tigers at 4 and number 3 and switched that out at the last second was that I don't know if their rotation can hold up. Yes, you have Tariq Skubal, who is likely going to be at least, at the very worst, a runner-up for Cy Young. He's pitched phenomenal. Obviously, he might win back-to-back Cy Youngs, and that's obviously no easy feat whatsoever. You have Casey Mize, who has pitched well as well. 3.83 ERA over 131 innings pitched with a 1.268 WHIP. So he's pitched well. But outside of that, no Reese Olson, no Jackson Jobe, and Jack Flaherty has been, he's been touch and go. I believe he's still with the team. Yes, he's still with the team. And you did sign Charlie Morton to kind of help you with your rotation, but that's kind of a more emergency signing, for a lack of better
He's
terms.
done all right.
Will
He's done
Vest,
all right.
yeah, he's done all right. But a 5.92 ERA, 38 innings pitched. He does have 45 strikeouts, so he can give you some good starts. But he might, maybe make a spot start in the playoffs if they need it. So we'll see. Will Vest has been a relatively good closer for this team. Brant Herter, who is one of their guys in the bullpen, who is now unfortunately back in the minor leagues for now, pitched relatively well when he was up with the major league team. So they do have options in that bullpen. The question is there enough in that lineup, or in that rotation, excuse me, to really push them over the finish line? And at number 5, I have the Houston Astros. This was really close with the Mariners. I think the Mariners are a fantastic team. I think their pitching can absolutely be lights out when they're all going together. The question is, can they rally outside of Cal Raleigh? I think they can, but the question is, do they all slump together at the same time as well? Cal Raleigh slumped really, really hard in August. 171 batting average, but he did hit 8 home runs, so he does show a lot of power even when he's not hitting well. Uh, Julio Rodriguez did come back to some form a little bit, 30 home runs. Jorge Polanco, 24 home runs. Randy Arozarenas had a great year, 78 OPS with 27 home runs. and so on and so forth. You have options. You absolutely have a lot of options. And I believe you also have Josh Naylor, who was doing really good when he came over. He has still done relatively well. 16 stolen bases with no caught stealings, which I
You good, Jess? Looks like we may have lost Jesse there for a second. We were talking about our top 5. All right, I guess I'll get into mine then. I'm just looking at the winning percentages, really, just down the board, and factoring in some of the acquisitions that they've made and just how well-rounded the teams are. Like Jesse, I'm kind of on board with my number 1 pick as the Milwaukee Brewers. They're just, like I said about the Blue Jays, a fundamentally sound team. Pat Murphy has really developed a system that everybody has bought into. And like Jesse, I've got the Brewers at number 1. Hey, Jesse, you there?
Yes, I'm still here. Internet loves to go out, unfortunately. I guess the Yankees don't want me talking better about American League East teams, unfortunately, for whatever reason.
That's okay. So you had number 5 at was it the Yankees at number 5?
No, actually, I had the Houston Astros at number
The
5.
Astros
This
at
was
number
really
5.
close.
Yeah, the Astros at number 5. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, it was really close with again the Mariners, and the reason why I put the Houston Astros at number 5 is because I just don't know if they have a lot of. Now, I will say they have firepower outside of Cal Raleigh. This was really close because
Mm-hmm.
I think both teams are on equal footing, but I think that the Astros just have slightly better batting in terms of just all around contact and getting on base than the Mariners. You have Jeremy Pena, who has done really well, 357 OBP. You have Jake Myers, who's done fantastic this year. He's been in and out, with maybe some injuries and being up and down. 370 OBP, really good. And you have Jose Altuve, who is your veteran of the team, still getting on base relatively frequently at a 327 clip. So
Yeah.
you really have a lot of power on that team. You have a lot of contact power and you have a lot of getting on base power. I just don't know if the Mariners can be able to outmatch that. Again, this was really close. These teams are on equal footing when you really look into them. The Mariners do have the better pitching, but I still believe that batting will still get you wins because there has never been a team in Major League Baseball that has won by scoring no runs. So you need
True.
to score some runs. And if the Astros are consistently getting on base more than the Mariners, I think that they are deserving of that number 5 spot. But again, that's really the big toss up.
Yeah. Well, the Brewers are showing that there is a philosophical changing of the guard in Major League Baseball, and the pathway to success is defense plus fundamentals plus starting pitching, I believe. Now, of course, you have to have offense, like you said, right? But if you're fundamentally sound, the offense is sort of going to take care of itself, as long as you have talent, of course. And the Brewers definitely have that talent. They got Jackson Chourio, absolute stud. They got Bryce Terang, well-rounded player. They got Christian Yelich, former MVP. So they have that star power. Are they the Dodgers? No. Are they the Yankees? No. But they do the right things to win. They've proven it all year long. And that's why they're the number 1 team in my power rankings as well. So like Jesse, I've got them at number 1. If they continue with fundamentally sound baseball, and there's no reason to believe that they won't, they could go very deep in the playoffs. They could shock some people. Now, we talked about Quinn Priester, right? Quinn Priester, who's their number 2 starter. Did you know that he's won 12
Yes.
starts in a row? And that is the most, that's the longest streak for consecutive wins for a starting pitcher since, I believe it's
Yes.
2019. And it was Garrett Cole with Houston. I thought Garrett Cole should have won the Cy Young that year, but they gave it to Verlander instead, his teammate. But Garrett Cole had 16 in a row that year. Imagine that, 16 games in a row Garrett Cole won. That was the year before he came to the Yankees, right? But yeah,
Yes.
Quinn Priester is definitely on a winning streak. He throws a ton of strikes, as does Wozniak. I can't pronounce his name. The third starter Wozniacki.
Jacob Mizorowski, I believe you're talking
Yeah,
about.
Mizorowski, yes. Jacob Mizorowski throws a ton of strikes. Those guys just live inside the strike zone, right? So a little bit
Yes.
different style than what Freddie Peralta is at the front end, even though Freddie Peralta is the most dominant pitcher on their staff. But very strong 1 through 4, that rotation. You mentioned Woodruff as well, right? And they're solid in the bullpen too. So not a lot of holes that I can detect with that Brewers team, and they've shown it all year. So that's why I have them at number 1. I got Philly at number 2. Even without Wheeler, you mentioned that is a huge loss. It definitely is. Their bullpen is so strong. And Johan Doan at the back end absolutely lights out. And their starting pitching is still really, really solid. And when you've got Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber at the top of the order,
Yes.
I mean, how do you go wrong with that, right? And Trey Turner is really starting to hit again as well. So you got that star power with Philly, great team. They just can't seem to go the distance in the playoffs. Maybe this is their year. Maybe it is. So number 2, number 3, I've got my Blue Jays. And if you look at the winning percentage, they're the third best team. They really are. 1 through 5, their starting rotation, super solid. Jose Barrios would be an ace on a lot of other teams, but he's going to be pushed to the bullpen in their playoff roster, right? Defense, like I said, even without Bichette, or especially without Bichette in the lineup, is absolutely 100% solid. No holes on the defensive side of the ball. If Bichette comes back in just a hitting capacity alone and they DH him, I think that could be the absolute best scenario for the Blue Jays, because they definitely need his bat. He's the best hitter on the team. So having Bichette's bat in the lineup as a DH and having Jimenez play short, that's the best Toronto Blue Jays team as I see it. If he doesn't return, if Bichette doesn't return, they've got Anthony Santander lying in wait in AAA, hitting bombs from both sides of the plate. So he's looking great in Buffalo, and he's ready to be called up probably next weekend. So I'm not sure how they'll fit him in the lineup if Bichette comes back as well. They'll have to figure that out, but that's a good problem to have. There's so much depth in that Toronto Blue Jays team. Now, number 4, I've got the Dodgers. Okay. Their starting rotation is just so elite with Yamamoto, Snell, and Glasnow at the front end. Those are the 3 that I see at the front. But then they've got Kershaw, then they've got Sheehan, and then they've got Shohei Ohtani. Now, the talk is that Ohtani would be starting in the playoffs, but now there's some rumors that he might be moved to the bullpen in a closer role potentially. There's been some rumors circulating that might be the case. So just an abundance of riches in terms of the pitching of the Dodgers. Now, they need help in the bullpen, which is crazy to think when they got, the likes of Bray Treinen and Tanner Scott, but they have been average in the bullpen, the Dodgers have. So maybe moving Ohtani to the bullpen would be the right move. He's an elite arm. Having him at the back end of the bullpen could really beef up that and balance out that Dodgers pitching staff. But as I said at the beginning of the podcast today, they've got holes defensively that they've got to solve. They've got to do something. But Betts is not great at shortstop. Maybe it's time to put him back in the outfield and consider moving Edman to short, which is what they did last year throughout the playoffs for the most part. Edman kind of moved back and forth from shortstop to center field. So they've got some options. And they need to have Pages' bat in the lineup every day. But where do you put him? They've had him in center field, but he's made some errors, some costly errors in center field. So the Dodgers, they were clearly number 1 at the start of the year, but they have gradually slid. They've stayed in the top 5, but they've gradually slid in the power rankings throughout the course of the season. So it's hard to imagine, that they're 4 or 5 in most conversations, but that's where we are. The Padres are who I include with number 5, mainly because of the beginning or the top 3 of their starting rotation is super, super strong as well, with Michael King, Dylan Cease, and Nick Pivetta. Those three guys can beat anyone. So heading into the playoffs with those three guys at the start of your rotation, or at the top end of your rotation, is about as strong as it gets. And they've got an elite closer as well. It's not going to be a closer by committee situation for them. Decent bullpen. And their lineup, they've got Tatis, they've got Arias, they've got Machado, who have underperformed this year, but those guys are big-time performers when it counts. And we'll see their talents truly coming to fruition in the playoffs, just as we've seen in past years. Okay, they've really brought it in the playoffs. Probably should have beaten the Dodgers last year and gone all the way. Mm-hmm. They came oh so close. And I think the Padres are probably going to bring it again, but they got to get that wild card. It's no guarantee that they will, but as long as they get in, the Padres should do just fine in the playoffs. So those are my top five.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think that's a fair top five. The reason why I didn't include the Los Angeles Dodgers is that their rotation gets hurt quite frequently, scarily frequently, unfortunately. Glasnow was out for a little while. Sheehan only recently came back from a major injury. Dustin May was traded off. Blake Snell did miss a good chunk of the season with injury as well. I'm just not sure. It seems like sometimes the rotation is made out of glass for whatever reason. And some of their best pitchers go down at the worst possible times. Yamamoto is their current ace at the moment, and the most durable out of all of them. 162 innings pitched. That's the most out of all the starters on that team. 187 strikeouts. Very good team. Now, the big issue I have with this team as well is, unfortunately, there is a hole with Mookie Betts. And I wrote about this on an article for Stadium Rant, where I did mention that he had an illness earlier this season that knocked out about 10 to 15% of his body weight. Yeah, and he had issues with stamina. And unfortunately, that's unfortunately left a big hole in their lineup, because he has seemingly had issues with just getting his strength back. There has been a noticeable drop-off with his bat speed and his power. So whether or not he gets that back during the offseason is to be seen, but that's one of the reasons I left them out. As for the Padres, again, that number 5 spot was really close, but I think it came down to the Astros and the Mariners in the AL West, because they're battling out. They're essentially tied at this moment, virtually tied, if not completely tied. The Padres, I think, they will I think that they will slide into the wild card spot. And Mason Miller, don't get me wrong, Mason Miller is a fantastic closer, and I think Robert Suarez is a fantastic setup man. And they have Jason Adam, who unfortunately got hurt, and he might be out for a little while. And I don't know if he's going to come back for the postseason. But they do have options in that bullpen. The question is it going to be enough for that wild card spot? I say yes, but I still believe that the Astros and the Mariners are still slightly the better team. But again, that was a really close decision to make on number 5.
Yeah, I thought about the Mariners as well, but you know what? Their acquisitions, there's some huge names. They made some great pickups, but those guys have not been playing in role so much. They haven't been performing the way that they were prior to being acquired. Eugenio Suarez, he's been good, but he hasn't been great. He hasn't hit a ton of home runs. Naylor's been good. I mean, he makes contact and has great at-bats, but he was better with Arizona than he's been with Seattle. He's been good with Seattle, but his numbers show, I mean, he's been good, but just hasn't been the force that they were hoping to acquire. Who else did they pick up? Arozarena has been there for a while. He's dipped off a little bit in recent games as well. So offensively, and Cal Raleigh, if you look at the last 30 games, I mean, he's hitting 100 something, right? He was clearly the front runner there for a while, ahead of Judge in the MVP conversation, and now he's well behind him. So offensively, there are concerns. There's the talent, but they just haven't produced post-trade deadline the way that most people, myself included, and the way this panel was expecting them to perform. They just haven't brought it the way that we expected. So that's why I didn't really include Seattle in the top 5. They were on the cusp for me as well, but I had to put San Diego in there in front of them.
Yes.
Now, we were going to talk about, I guess we could dig into tonight's series, the Red Sox and the Yankees, how pivotal that is. Yeah, huge game tonight. But maybe just first, we could talk briefly about the award winners. Does it seem fairly clear-cut across the board? For me, I've kind of got Judge. I think we're both in agreement that Judge has separated himself from the pack, and he's all but run away with it at this point.
Yes.
Would you say, Jesse?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree 100%. I think the rally slump in August definitely killed his chances of being the front runner. I still think he is going to, at the very best, or at least we can. There's a bit of a consensus that he's going to be runner up. Now, whether or not he falls even further, he might even fall behind the third place, behind Bobby Witt Jr. or Corey Seager. Now, I still believe that 53 home runs is no easy feat, and he has done tremendous things for the Seattle lineup, but his slump really killed his chance. So I would agree. Aaron Judge is the AL MVP winner.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, we have to go with these, perennial choices that I want somebody else to win it. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
But Ohtani is the clear-cut winner in the NL once again. He's on the cusp of having 50 home runs and 100 RBIs, and he has pitched very, very effectively. His quality start count is way up there. I think he's had 12 starts and something like 10 quality starts, right? So he's just been so solid for them on the mound. And offensively, he's just that once-in-a-generation player. He's unbelievable.
Yes.
Or beyond that. Like, nobody has ever seen anything like him. He is truly the best player of the past 50 years or more.
Yes.
Yeah, so
absolutely, and I'll just chime in on that as well. I still believe that Schwarber may get maybe one or two first place votes from maybe a writer or two. We'll see. I don't know if Ohtani's going to be a unanimous winner because Schwarber has had a phenomenal power season. But given the fact that Ohtani's pitching has come back to form and he is starting to play a pivotal role for that rotation and possibly the bullpen for the postseason, I think he is the NL MVP winner.
Yeah, agreed. Remember early in the year we were talking about PCA just being on the cusp
of
the MVP, and he has just completely fallen off the map. No consideration at this point, I don't think, for PCA, unfortunately. But I agree with you with Schwarber. Just he is the catalyst of that offense. And that's an offense that had some serious firepower. But without Schwarber, the Phillies aren't where they are. So he's going to get some serious consideration as well.
Absolutely.
Now, Cy Young, I did think, I mentioned this, I think, in our previous episode, that Freddie Peralta did not get enough consideration. He's been criminally underrated for so long, and that is probably going to be reflected in this year's Cy Young vote. However, Paul Skeens is a Cy Young winner. He is, it's undeniable at this point. Had he not been playing for Pittsburgh, he would be probably up around 17, 18 wins and absolutely running away with the award. He's the Cy Young winner. Phenomenal sophomore season. Paul Skeens, definitely my pick for Cy Young. How about you for the NL Cy Young, Jesse?
I have to agree with that. I still think it's going to be really close between Freddie Peralta and Paul Skeens, but I think Paul Skeens is going to be the winner. Of course, he's with a not so very good team, the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have not really built a very good team around him and have really just allowed him to struggle for wins. But when you have 200 strikeouts and 178 innings pitched, and when you have one complete game as well, with only 39 walks the entire season, you're onto something really good. And you only given up 10 home runs during that time frame for the entire season. So he's in a really good spot. Now, I would definitely say Freddie Peralta is absolutely a runner-up. Freddie Peralta has been really good this year. It is a shame that he's probably going to finish behind Paul Skeens, barring any type of dramatic increase in this play. But unfortunately, it's getting towards the end of the year or right towards the absolute end of the year. So that's a little hard to do.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of third place, I believe that if Zach Wheeler was not hurt, he would be definitely a third place finisher. But his injury, obviously, unfortunately, knocks him down a little bit. So I think Yoshiobu Yamamoto from the Dodgers will be a good third place candidate. But I absolutely believe that Paul Skeens will be the winner of
Yep.
the
And
Cy
then
Young.
on the AL side, you talked about Tariq Skubal, and you didn't mention, I don't know if you saw this the other day, but he came out of the game, and I think it was the fourth inning with some tightness in his, I think his pitching side and his lat. He was taken out of the game. Medical examinations didn't reveal anything serious afterwards, so he's probably not. He might miss one start. He can afford to miss a start, but there are some concerns heading into the playoffs in terms of Tariq Skubal's health, his overall health. So that would be a devastating blow if there were some injury concerns leading into the playoffs with Skubal, because they essentially live and die with Tariq Skubal in the playoffs, the Detroit Tigers.
Yes.
I think. So now, in terms of the Cy Young votes, yeah, he's had a phenomenal season in some sense, better than last year even. But my vote is Garrett Crochet, because I don't think, like Skubal, but I don't think the Red Sox are where they are had Crochet not brought it to the extent that he has this year. So he's my pick. We'll see how he does tonight in a pivotal game against the Yankees. Tonight, he might seal the deal in terms of the Cy Young vote if he goes out and really shuts down the Yankees tonight. So there's a lot riding in this game tonight, personally for Crochet and for the team, for the Boston Red Sox and their playoffs.
Yes.
So, but he's my pick anyway for Cy Young. How about AL Cy Young? Who are you thinking?
Well, this is a really close one because you've got three fantastic pitchers. I would honestly think that Hunter Brown may have a shot to possibly upset both because Hunter Brown has been really good this year. He's been the ace of that Astros team. Now he did have a couple of issues and not so good starts during the middle of the year, July, August, but he's come back to form. So this is a really close race. But if we really had to break it down, I would honestly believe that my vote would have to go for Tariq Skubal. I still think he is the best pitcher in the AL East. No disrespect to Garrett Crochet. I think he has been a phenomenal pitcher, but it's really just pick and choose who you want, essentially, at this point. I still believe that Tariq Skubal is the best pitcher in baseball. Now, again, Garrett Crochet is right up there with him.
In baseball, better than Paul Skeens?
I would say in
a fantasy draft, you got Skubal over Skeens. Yeah, interesting.
I would I would say at least in the American League. Let's be a little careful. Let's rein it in a little bit. In the American League, I think that Paul Skeens is the best pitcher in baseball. I'm going to correct myself on that one. I would believe that Tariq Skubal is the best pitcher in the American League, or Garrett Crochet is the best pitcher in the American League, or Hunter Brown is the best pitcher in the American League. So it really is just pick and choose. But my vote would go for Tariq Skubal. I think his arsenal is fantastic, and I think he is not done yet. I think we're starting to see the emergence of probably, if he continues on this trajectory and gets even better, definitely a candidate for best pitcher in baseball if he can overtake Paul Skeens' numbers.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. We've got a handful of young, elite workhorse pitchers, so it's so fun to watch. The three guys you mentioned, and you can counter those with three in the National League who are up and coming and just as exciting to watch, right?
Yes.
So how about tonight? Like we said, a very, very much a pivotal game. A little bit of a mismatch in the starting pitching department, Yankees and Red Sox, but it'd be a huge, huge statement-making win if the Yankees could pull this off tonight. What do you think, Jess?
Oh, absolutely. If they can pull off a win against Garrett Crochet, I think it would be a major upset, and it would be a much-needed win for the New York Yankees. Because right now, again, don't forget the AL East is really close. Only 3 games separate first and second, and don't forget the Yankees and the Red Sox are almost virtually tied. The Yankees are slightly better than the Red Sox in terms of games behind, but it's still really close. And this is anybody's ball game in the American League East, except for Baltimore, which is essentially almost out of the playoffs. They're not quite out of the hunt, but they look like they're about to be out of the hunt, unfortunately, which is a shame. But I would definitely think that if we're looking at a fair, honest standpoint, I would still think Garrett Crochet easily handles the Yankee lineup. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's a really close AL East, and anything can happen. And I think the Yankees know that there's something to play for, and they need to play really hard. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, doesn't get much better. September baseball with playoff implications. Yankees, Red Sox, Sunday night baseball. We hope everyone enjoys, and thanks everyone for tuning in to Dirty Leather tonight. We'll sign off. For Jesse, this is Doug, and we'll catch everyone next week. Bye for now.